Okay, over the next few minutes, we're going to take you through all the steps of how to properly set the toe end of your chassis. You notice we've got a table set up here and we've got the scales set up. So what we're going to do, we're going to simulate what you would do to properly line your chassis. Now, one thing you need to remember, in order to get your toe end set as accurately as possible, your cart needs to be in an as-raced position. In other words, it needs to be on the scales, with the tires, with the motor, with the driver. Now, for our demonstration, we're not going to put a driver in it because the driver blocks a lot of the view, but it needs to be in an as-raced trim. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take you through each step. We're going to do one side and then the other. I'm also going to show you two unique tools that we offer. We're going to use one on one side and one on the other to show you your options. And whenever we get done with here in the next couple of minutes, you'll be a pro at setting your toe. And now before we actually set our toe, one very important step is you have to have a steering lock. You got to lock the steering wheel so it don't turn. And most all carts are now equipped with a steering lock. This has a removable pin. We'll put it in the center, lock it down. We also have to make sure that this lock is adjusted so that our steering shaft, our pitman arm, this is the arm that's welded to the steering shaft. An imaginary line from the center of the steering shaft down through the pitman arm to your center bolt and out to your tie rod, that should be 90 degrees. So it should be 90 degrees with a line from here to here and here to here. This is a 90-degree angle. The tools that we're going to be using on the right side is what we call the AccuTow Advance. It is our most advanced laser toe setting system. See, this system also uses our patented reflective laser system, but it has many new features. So as we go through the right side, I'll show you just some of the advantages that it has. One of the first features I want to show you is the way that the spindle, that the adapter bolts to the front of the go-kart. As you know, we need to move our laser system to the outside because we're checking the toe with the driver in it. So we have to move all of our laser beam outside the wheels. So we have to use an extension. With the old system, you had to remove the nuts. With this system, it has an extended nut. Okay, once this nut is on the cart, you race it that way. You don't have to take this nut off. Once you put it on, it's good. The only reason you take this off is if you want to take your wheel and your hub off. So all you have to do is put the rod in like so, mount it up, we're ready to go. This cart already has a nut on it, so we'll just screw it in. Okay, now that we've got our rod in place and tight, we can put our mirror adapter onto our extension rod just like with our older system. With the new system, it also incorporates a camber gauge. So once you put the rod on, the mirror adapter on and tighten it down, you can level it with the rear valve and go ahead and check your camber with your camber valve. But for now, we're going to check toes, so now we'll need to put the back part on. With the new advanced AccuTow system, it uses a collet design, which takes out any play that's in the axle. This is a unique design that's only available in this system. And the way it works, there's a pull rod or a mandrel rod on the inside that's adjusted with the supplied Allen wrench. You simply put it in the axle, and what it'll do, it will locate itself against the front taper. You push it all the way in until it locks in the front taper, and then we'll actually screw this backwards, this left-hand threads, and it'll expand this mandrel up inside the axle. You notice I turned that backwards because it's left-hand threads. Just snug it down, doesn't have to be tight, takes out all the play. The final step in putting the system on is just to put the battery box in. The way it's designed, there's no switches. The reason that is in order to take this off and put it in the case, you have to take the battery loose. So that prevents you from putting your system in the case with it switched on and the battery going dead. It's simply a quarter turn clip, clips on, and our laser's on. We simply adjust our wheels, just roll the cart a little bit until the laser hits the mirror. It's going to come back. All right, now here's where we're at. We've got the AccuTow Advanced system bolted on, everything's right, everything's tight, everything's ready to go. You should have your cart set up in an as-raced position. Driver should be in it, which we do not have, you should. What's happening here is this thing is shooting a laser beam out of here. It's going the length of the cart, or the length of the wheelbase, hitting the mirror and coming back. And it should line up on this side. We want to set this side at 0. Some people set them a little differently, but you know, most of the time you're going to set your chassis at 0. But the scale is graduated in 30-second increments. Big lines are 16th, small lines are 32nd. You can adjust your toe You can adjust your tie rod in. Your laser will move back and forth. If the laser beam is on this side of 0, it's toe out. If it's on this side of 0, it's toe in. So from there, you just set it the way you want it, lock it down, make sure it's on 0, take it off, put it on the other side. Okay, for the left side, we're going to show you another product that we have. It's called our AccuTow ES system. This is our economy version. It comes with an AccuCam camber gauge, so you can check camber on either side. And you simply screw it on, take your nut off. With this system, you have to take your nut off, and then you screw this on like normal, like a standard camber gauge. When you tighten this camber gauge down, it takes all the play out, so you need to be sure and level it as you tighten it. Once it's tight, you can check your camber. You can level it on the end, check your camber. Then you got a removable mirror that clips onto the gauge. That's what the laser is going to hit, send back. Now on the back, the AccuTow ES system uses an internal extension. So what it does, this goes up inside your axle. It's made on a taper so that when you push it in, it gets tight. You want to make sure when you push it in, your axles are clean. You don't want to jam them in there real tight because you'll get them stuck. You just want to work them up in there nice and easy, and it'll get tight so there's no play. Then you screw your laser onto it. Stick it in. If you notice, the adapter's got a small end and a big end. Small end is for the standard 3/16 wall axle. The larger end is for the thinner 120 wall axle. So you can put it in either way. Okay, now we got the AccuTow ES bolted on, ready to go. Like I said, you should have your driver in race position. The laser beam's leaving the laser just like the other side, hitting the mirror and coming back. One thing about the reflective that I want to bring to your attention is adding the mirror into it instead of just having a one-shot laser. It actually, the mirror doubles the accuracy because any misalignment is multiplied because it is reflective. Because if it hits at a 1-degree angle, it's going to come off at a 2-degree angle, so it multiplies it. So that's the reason that reflective lasers are patented and are used and are used in this application. As you can see, the laser's leaving, coming back. We're going to set this side on the 16th. You simply adjust your left tie rod. Once you get it like you want it with your driver in, you cinch down your tie rod bolts, your jam nuts, and you're ready to go racing. Okay, now that we've showed you the proper way of setting your tow, you may be asking yourself, and we hear this a lot, why go through the hassle of putting it on the scales? Why can't I just check it on the stands? And without going into a whole lot of detail, whenever the chassis is loaded, the kingpin inclination in the front end geometry will cause the wheels to turn in a certain amount depending on how much load is on it. And I really don't want to get into a real deep discussion about that, but what you need to know is that when you load the chassis, the toe end changes. Depending on whether, if you check it on the stand and you put it on the scales with the driver in it, it will be different on any brand of go-kart. So that's the reason we highly recommend that you check your toe on the scales. Now, some people will get carried away and they'll want to check toe every time they go out. If you move one washer, you got to check the toe. That's taking it a little bit too far. As long as when you put your package together, the way we do it, we scale the chassis out, we get everything close. We normally set the toe, we normally rough in the toe as I call it. Then after we get everything set up on the chassis, the last thing we do is we set the toe. That's the last thing we do before we take it off the scales. Once we do that, we go racing. Unless we get hit or we start making major changes, we really don't worry about it. When we go back to the scales, we'll double check it. But there's no need to check it every time you make a minute change. You can run yourself crazy checking toe. Just be sure that when you check it the first time, do a good job. Make sure everything's tight, everything's safe. You'll be good to go.